we have three exciting presentations today. To recap a little bit, the first one is from Mr. Kenneth Drucker from HOK. He talks about the biomimic design, inspired design. You can see how he tried to humanize the project to be adaptive. Second, we have motion study, habitat discussion with the setback and offsetting units, and try to have maximize the garden area, sunlight area, and make it more habitable. Lastly, we have the solutions, design solutions from Goettsch Architects, talking about the environmental solution and technological solutions. I would like to see our audience, what questions they have, so we can discuss it with our presenters. Yes, please.
This thing was excellent. Can we have a building combining all the three people, a building with all the three concepts into one building?
Yeah, you have a very ambitious question.
Yes.
Those concepts can't work in every part of the world, so you have to look to individual sites and their particular environments to find the solution. So unfortunately, a turbine generating element for wind just isn't going to work in very many environments. So I'd love to say that there was an opportunity to bring all these things together and to create a super building, but unfortunately it's so driven on where they are located in the world and the respectful response to that. So unfortunately, I'd have to say probably no.
Next questions? Yes, please.
Hello, my question goes to GP about the last case of vertical expansion. How do you solve the structural challenges since, almost double loads on the foundation?
Interestingly enough on that job, since we knew that this building was going to expand in the future, basically there was a 20% structural premium that was put into the foundations as well as into the base building steel. And that was paid for, as well as additional loading berths and additional service freights. This was all paid for in phase one with the full recognition that this building could expand vertically in the future. So it takes foresight and it takes some investment. And of course, we're extremely happy that that investment and foresight paid off to complete the building. So, but it does, you need to know that going in up in front.
Any questions? Jump in.
My question is to Paul. In the vertical expansion, in the second phase of it, the structure-borne noise transfer, how did the occupants below cope with that?
Took a bit of getting used to, you could say. I think more what they had to deal with was the visual issue of seeing girders rising up the building. And Chicago is known as the Windy City. So I think there was some dissettlement with that. I don't think the vibration and the noise issue was as much of a challenge for the inhabitants as it more was just seeing the act of construction going on. Obviously at grade it was very easy. You shield these, the environment, so the paths are very protected. But it was really just the idea of seeing the structure coming up outside of your glass wall. It wasn't really noise or vibration. That was a major concern.
This is a question for Ken Drucker. Excellent presentation. Thanks for sharing your fresh ideas. You moved beyond the triple bottom line to show 15 variables that you assess and optimize to. I was wondering, how do you do that optimization with so many different variables in play?
We work with the lenses of each of those 15 variables and customize them for each client and for each site and for each location, so that our goals are different for every single project based on what we think we can obtain and what we can't obtain. So we look at it through these lenses. We're doing a project in Sao Paulo, a very deep green biomimicry project, where we're trying to sort of teach the Brazilians how to restore the Amazon rainforest within Sao Paulo. And so we're looking at natural ventilation, we're looking at indigenous materials, we're looking at double wall facades, we're looking at structural systems that mimic the fruit that you find in the rainforest. The whole icon for the building is actually a bromeliad. So the major iconic element that basically gathers water, it's an air gathering plant that's been abstracted into a structural design with a glazing system that opens and closes based on the intensity of the sun. We look at putting NGOs in the building, non-for-profits, to basically teach sustainable practices. So it's embedded in the program, it's embedded in the economics, and then the roots of the bromeliad branch out into the community and provide fresh water for the community. So we're looking at these ideas as an abstraction as opposed to literally mimicking nature, but looking at nature for clues.
Andy, yes,
David Scott from Lang O'Rourke. I have a question for Chris. On the Sky Gardens, to what extent have you managed to make use of the gardens to reduce your vertical transportation and your means of escape by spreading it amongst buildings? And I love them, and I think that it can create a really vibrant sort of space, either at the top or the mid-height of the building. Is there any lessons, is there any research going on to how to use these effectively to create urban communities that are using them?
It's a very good question. I think we've looked at it in each of the different projects. I think we can deal with it a bit differently. In the last project that was shown in Chongqing, because of the structure of this of the conservatory, actually has a fairly large underbelly. Let's say we actually have space within that zone to bring egress down, to bring sort of the hotel guests or the residents or the different users of that space down into sort of one space. It's a larger refuge area to then collect them and redistribute them as they come down. And I think the benefit is not only sort of providing a large reservoir, let's say, as an area. Sometimes it's indoor, sometimes it's exterior, but because it's bridging across usually multiple towers or multiple cores, it allows us to sort of make use of that multiple routes of circulation.
This gentleman, please.
Thank you. I just want to say that I thought all three presentations were very compelling and high quality, so I want to thank each of you for your thoughtfulness. It was very intriguing just to see them in sequence. But I want to go back to the vertical expansion because I think it's so compelling in the context of this seminar. I'm wondering, is there a cost comparison for building a phase 2 vertically versus side by side? And then secondly, on a coordination note, you mentioned the conversion of the cooling tower space to the conference room. What happened to the cooling towers during construction?
I'm gonna start with the second part of that question because that's a little bit easier for me to answer. And the cooling towers needed to stay fully functioning throughout the construction of phase 2. And it wasn't until the very end that we were then able to bring the new cooling towers on the top and then start the commissioning of those towers, and then we could pull them out and pull out the phase 1. So you had it was a little bit of a tricky scenario, so it wasn't until the very end that you were able to then start to work on the function of that mid-body or mid-building space. To get to the first part of the question, you know, I don't know if we have done an analysis, but I can find out as to whether or not the building market in 2008 would have justified a second building from a cost standpoint. It wasn't really a concept that we really explored much because when we started the project in the early 1990s, that was part of the vision of the project. And so when this particular owner went to look for architects to help advise them, this was what separated us from our competition in this approach. So it was an idea that they bought into and a concept that they really wanted to see all the way through. Obviously, we did too. So the cost analysis, I don't necessarily know if I have, but I'm sure I can check with some of my colleagues if.
I think I can help out to give you some background about these questions. My company, Thornton Thompson, I've been working on many expansion projects. And you're right, if you have to build another 50% of the floor space on top of the existing space, you have to pay a premium because you have to put the lower floors to support the upper floors. You increase the column size, you increase the existing foundations, and you have to pay for the lateral system. Yes, there's a premium. But how you compare this premium versus the cost of the land that you have to buy. So most of the feasibility study we have gone through always recognize it. You have to pay a premium by building higher. But that premium will usually be offset by the land. You have to buy the land next door is so expensive, and you save on the land. That's why all the developers are keep on trying to get more FAR to keep higher and higher because they don't have to pay for expensive land. So that's one of the most important factors in this calculation. Next questions, please.
Hi, George Binder from Brussels, Belgium. Perhaps a question for Dennis Poon and for GP Architects. Obviously, the idea of the expansion is great. How do you explain that you don't have much more project like this? I mean, I think that from the start, only the GP project in Chicago and probably one in Vancouver, I don't remember the city in Canada, but very few projects foresight this idea. And even when the idea comes after the project was completed, like the Sun Kong K Center in Hong Kong, I can count all the projects with an expansion like this on the fingers of one hand. So did you discuss this idea with other developers and no one want to do and implement it? I would like to have your ideas about this. Thank you.
In my opinion, I think the developer / owner needs to really have an investment, a long-term investment in the building. This type of concept is just not going to be, let's say, affordable or receptive in a speculative type of market. The owner has to have investment, and they need to see that this is a project that they're going to have and own and operate for 25, 30, 45 years. And that type of owner just isn't out there very much. Let's just be honest. And you have to pay for some additional infrastructure up front. And we talked about the 20% cost to upgrade for your structure and for your caissons and the like. And that investment is just, that's an upfront cost that developers are just not going to want to insert into their projects when they're watching the budget of their buildings. So I think it's rare. You need to have an owner who really wants that investment, is willing to pay for that investment, that upfront cost that may not be realized, but they want it.
I just want to add on the institutional side, almost every single hospital we design is designed for additional floors. And in New York City, we designed a large hospital where one floor was value engineered 15 years ago for $12 million in savings, and that additional floor was just added for $100 million. So if you look at the cost of inflation over the years, it's remarkable to me that so many institutional clients, like hospitals, we're designing another large hospital in New York where phase 1 is 8 floors, and then phase 2 is an additional 8 floors. We always put a mechanical sandwich in between them, but it's a function of their bonding capacity and a function of their ability to get approval from the local healthcare authorities that define how much you can build at any one time. If it was a developer, they would build the full 16 floors and core and shell the upper 8 floors.
Very good. Any other questions? One last question. We are running out of time. Okay, thank you so much. Let's go for lunch.